Hey friends, welcome to today's video. Today is going to be the greatest day of your life. I want to continue this series of telling motivational and inspirational stories today and tell you some stories that are related to business and work. Because I believe succeeding in business is no easy feat. You see, it is just too easy to let business knock you down. Instead of throwing in the towel when there's a business problem, we need to pick ourselves back up, buckle down, and get back to work. And these motivational stories that I'll tell you, there are 4 short stories, are going to prove to you that with a little hard work, any amount of business success is possible. Now, the first one I want to tell you is one of my favorites. It's the Colonel Sanders story and Kentucky Fried Chicken. Next time you drive past a Kentucky Fried Chicken, you're going to think of me because this story is motivational and inspirational, and it's just a darn good story. So Colonel Sanders, once there was an older man who was broke. He was living in a tiny house and he owned a beat-up old car. He was living off of $99 Social Security checks, and at the age of 65 years old, he decided things had to change. So he thought about what he had to offer, and his friends raved about his chicken recipe, so he decided that this was his best shot at making a change. He left Kentucky and traveled to different states to try to sell his recipe. He told restaurant owners that he had a mouth-watering chicken recipe. He offered the recipe to them for free, just asking for a small percentage of the items sold. Sounds like a good deal, right? Well, unfortunately, not to most of the restaurants. He heard no over 1,000 times. Even after all those rejections, however, he did not give up. He believed his chicken recipe was something special. He got rejected 1,009 times before he heard his first yes. And with that one success, Colonel Heartland Sanders changed the way Americans eat chicken. Kentucky Fried Chicken, popularly known as KFC, was born. I think the lesson here is we need to remember to never give up and always believe in ourselves in spite of rejection and also in spite of age. We're never too old to make changes. We're never too old to live our dreams. And Colonel Sanders proves that. I love that story. It's a good one. The next one is called The Obstacles in Our Path. There once was a very wealthy and curious king. The king had a huge boulder placed in the middle of a road. Then he hid nearby to see if anyone would try to remove the gigantic rock from the road. The first people to pass were some of the king's wealthiest merchants and couriers, and rather than moving it, they simply walked around it. A few loudly blamed the king for not maintaining the roads. Not one of them tried to move the boulder. Finally, a peasant came along. His arms were full of vegetables, and when he got near the boulder, rather than simply walking around it as the others had, the peasant put down his load and tried to move the stone to the side of the road. It took a lot of effort, but he finally succeeded. The peasant gathered up his load and was ready to go on his way when he saw a purse lying in the road where the boulder had been. The peasant opened the purse. The purse was stuffed full of gold coins and a note from the king. The king's note said the purse's gold was a reward for moving the boulder in the road. Now the king showed the peasant what many of us never understand, and that is that every obstacle presents an opportunity to improve our condition. I love that story. It's a good one. The next one I want to tell you is about value, and it's actually called Value. You see, a popular speaker started off a seminar by holding a $20 bill. A crowd of 200 had gathered to hear him speak. He asked, "Who would like this $20 bill?" And of course, 200 hands went up. He said, "I'm going to give this 20 to one of you, but first, let me do this." He crumpled the bill up. Then he asked, "Who still wants it?" And 200 hands were still raised up. "Well," he replied, "what if I do this?" Then he dropped the bill on the ground and stomped it with his shoes. He then picked it up and showed it to the crowd. The bill was all crumpled and dirty. Now who still wants it? All of the hands still went up. My friends, I have just showed you a very important lesson. No matter what I did to the money, you still wanted it because it did not decrease in value. It was still worth $20. Many times over our lives, life crumples us and grinds us into the dirt. We make bad decisions or deal with poor circumstances, and we feel worthless. But no matter what happened or what will happen, you will never lose your value. You are special, and don't ever forget that. And the last story I want to tell you talks about a very special bank account that we all have. Imagine you had a bank account that deposited $86,400 each morning. The account carries over no balance from day to day, allows you to keep no cash balance, and every evening cancels whatever part of the amount you had failed to use the day before. What would you do? Draw out every dollar? Draw out all the money every single day? I want to recommend to you that we do all have such a bank account. Its name is time. And every morning it credits you with 86,400 seconds. Every night it writes off as lost whatever time you had failed to use wisely. It carries over no balance from day to day. It allows no overdraft, so you can't borrow against yourself or use more time than you have. Each day the account starts fresh. Each night it destroys the unused time. If you fail to use the day's deposit, it is your loss and you can't appeal to get it back. Now, there is never any borrowing time. You can't take out a loan on your time or against someone else's. The time you have is the time you have, and that is that. Time management is yours to decide how to spend the time. You see, just as the money, you decide how you spend the money. In this case, you decide how you spend the time. It is never the case of us not having enough time to do things, but the case of whether we want to do them and where they fall in our priorities. A very, very wealthy and successful individual one time sat down with me and we had a conversation, and they explained time to me in this way. They said, Doug, the billionaire and the homeless man sleeping on the park bench each have the same amount of time. Their life results are indicative of how they choose to spend their time. Absolutely beautiful, and I love that. Friends, that's my stories for today. Listen, I want you to know I care about you. You're unique, amazing, and there's nobody like you in the world. But I can assure you, you have everything inside of you that you need to build the life of your dreams and to make things happen. Make your goals a reality. It is 100% within your ability to do so. And you know what? If anybody's worth it, you are. I care about you, as I said before, and I'll definitely be back tomorrow with some more motivational stories. We're going to continue this series for one more day. I hope you have a beautiful day, friends. Take care. I'll see you tomorrow.